Yes, everyone, you know what time it is. Welcome back to the Irish Hotspur, joined by Johnny and Sam. Again, it is going to be a trio panel tonight. Dave, unfortunately, had to call out sick, but I'm pretty sure he should be back in time for all the match day festivities Thursday and should hopefully be back for tomorrow's fan show. By the way, everybody, the fan show should be out tomorrow night, so do join me for it. Talking a little Galatasaray, talking a little Aston Villa glory, as well as Manchester City and Spurs at the moment, from doom and gloom to Crystal Palace defeats to feeling like we're on top of a mountain after beating Man City and Aston Villa. Feels like we got our chests out, or at least I do. I'm definitely honing the best of my happy clapping abilities right now after the last two wins. Feeling good about Spurs, feeling good about the next two games. And, you know, we could go into this international break for once, maybe hopefully, feeling really good about Spurs, because normally we go into them with kind of a bit of a, let's say reluctance about having to watch our team again afterwards. But it's good to be back with Johnny and Sam. Going to try to do our best, to put out these shows at least once a week, this panel, whether even if we're missing the big Dave or not. But Johnny, to the side of me, to the left of me, to the right of me, whichever one it is. How are you? Big wins. Last two wins. Must have been fun games to go to, both at home.
Listen, after being demoralised by going to Palace and having to come home from that one, it was just saving grace, to watch Arsenal struggle. But this last week has been fabulous. But more important, the bigger question is have we seen any sign of Dave's IKEA setup? I mean, he bombed out of last week, and I just wondered whether we actually seen the couch. Was it the IKEA couch? I can't remember. I think it was an IKEA couch or a bit of furniture, but I haven't seen any signs of it. But people were talking about it at the stadium. They weren't really interested in the lineup. Has Dave sorted out his couch yet? No. It was a brilliant game. It was a fantastic buzz. I don't think I certainly didn't see 4 goals in the second half. I thought we played fantastic in the first half. I saw some of the
cagey though.
Yeah, I just saw some of the reviews saying, we weren't great in the first half, but I thought, Aston Villa are a really strong, combative team, and I thought we matched them power for power. Yeah, I mean it's the same old sloppy goal going in, but I actually thought we did really well, and I think we just basically overrun them in the end. Listen, it was a great feeling to come out of both City and Villa with victories and walk down the high road with a smile on your face and a spring in the step. And God forbid, could we actually go into an international break?
Delighted.
I mean, I know traditionally we always get stuff just before the international break, but please God, we go to Ipswich and we do the business.
Yeah, there's a part of me that feels like, we'll probably smack Galatasaray and then just in the very Spursy fashion end up dropping points to switch down. That's what seems like could be on the cards here. We've just been through it too many times before. But I agree with a lot of that there. And, I agree with also your assessment of that first half. I think it's just two really good teams going at it, neutralizing each other. And there's nothing wrong with that. And we just pushed on and ended up being even better in the second half and overwhelmed them. Sam, though, I mean, we're feeling good about Tottenham Hotspur. I'm happy clapping. Feels like, Spurs, things are starting to click. Maybe the Ange train is really starting to choo-choo. I mean, how are you? 2 great wins in a row since last time we spoke.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough to go to the Man City game, and those first 25 minutes were unbelievable, and then the next 70-odd minutes, I was there like this,
like watching all over again.
Even though we had the chances to put it away, once the first goal went in for City, I was like, I turned to my dad, and we both just gave each other the look, like, oh God, here we go again, because we dominated them up to that point. They had, that was their first shot on target. Which just falls into the narrative, unfortunately, of how we play. But no, I'm good. I'm very happy. If you could have asked me, going into this set of like 4 fixtures, would you lose to Crystal Palace if that meant you beat Man City in the cup and beat Aston Villa? You'd probably take that. So yeah. I can't really complain. Obviously, that Palace game was something we've all tried to forget very, very quickly. And thankfully, the results have allowed us to sort of not really get that battering from rival fans. In fact, on Monday, I was able to come in and ask everyone how their weekend was. But yeah, I'm good. I'm ready to get into it.
No, it's doesn't feel very often that we can be smug, as Spurs fans, and we can be chest out, feeling a little too confident, if you will, sometimes about the team. But that's a good time to be alive as a Spurs fan. And I agree with you kind of with that Man City game that maybe the first half was Ange ball, and then the second half was like kind of reminiscent of the old days of Mourinho and Antonio Conte, where you're pretty much just, watching the game from behind the couch, just hoping that the final whistle just comes sooner rather than later, because you just know that the inevitable is going to happen of some late goal conceded. But we held on, and fair credit to Ange Postecoglou, almost bringing out the best of his, if he has any, Conte-like abilities, because we really did hang on there in a very professional, team-like manner. Two very different performances, but very team performances, if you will, in both Aston Villa as well as Manchester City. But just greeting out the chat here, and then we'll get this show going. If you guys can for me, though, smash that like button, get into the comments below. And also as well, if you are a member, send in your questions. It's in the community section. Ask the boys anything. We'll address them one at a time, and we'll get through them. And we do reserve time at the end of each and every one of these panel shows to answer your guys' questions. It's just a little perk that Dave and I feel like you guys could enjoy as being contributors to this community. But hopefully everybody's keeping well this evening. Champions League, election night, plenty of things to hopefully distract yourself with. So please join us and partake in the conversation. Rainman is in with us, saying have probably watched that Kulusevski goal about 20 times. It's a lovely, lovely finish. And I wonder if that was his plan the whole time, was to dink it over the keeper like that. It was just that smooth, that calm. Alpesh Patel, good evening. He's saying hopefully Dade have great weekend birthday celebrations. I think he did. And maybe he tried, an attempt to go after the IKEA furniture a second time. And it looks like he might have injured himself, according to Johnny, because we haven't seen the final product. He hasn't given us the final pictures. Late Evelyn, time to sell Richie. Interesting. We're going to be talking about James Madison, but if we ever had time for it, maybe that's another person that is at this point, really costing his opportunities to win back faith from the Spurs faithful in the case of Richarlison. Martin Walton, good to see you with us. Kevin Ferguson, good to see you with us. Donovan Osterreicher, Sam looks ready for business. Man has got his eyes on the next 3 points. Big up. Is that coming against Galatasaray or Ipswich Town? Sammy.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were sort of asking.
I wish Donovan could answer me straight away.
I don't know, to be honest. I wonder if we play a bit of a weakened team going into the Galatasaray game, to be honest. When I say weakened team, I don't necessarily mean, like the typical B team, but I just wonder, with the sort of pickup in injuries we've had recently, whether Ange kind of looks at it thinking, we're 3 wins out of 3 in the Europa League. Can I afford to go a bit weaker in the game? Probably. And then bring on players later on in the game if we need to,
Yeah. Galatasaray game, I'm quietly confident about. I just wonder if we're going to get at least a point. And that Galatasaray team from last season, I mean, they chipped in a lot of goals in terms of scoring, but also, conceding as well. They were kind of a bit of a basket case of a team in the Champions League last year. And I don't think they're too different in the Europa League this year either. So it could be a very spicy game. And you just wonder if we're better at the spicy type of games than other teams are. I think we're happy for it to turn into a basketball game. And I'm curious if that's what will end up happening. But Mark New is with us. Big up Jack, Sam, and Johnny. Massive performance, massive win. Was it the home fans? Was it our talisman, Sonny? Get in there, you Tottenham. Come on, you Spurs. Come on, you Harris Army. We do have a question about the home fans and as well as the home form, Mark New, and whether Johnny's been our good luck charm maybe at some of these games in terms of our good form. Chris is with us. Good to see you. Goat of the channel, as well as also one of the mods in the chat. Appreciate you, sir. Patty Higgins is with us as well. Good to see you, Patty. 3rd in the league going into the international break. It's possible. Some would say impossible. Paul Brown, evening. Good to see you, Paul Brown. Peter's with us as well. Appreciate your support as a member, Peter. Next Level English, Ken Tab, Colin Cross, Jimmy Hotspur, lesser known, great name, big up lesser known. Then MB Joker Davis asking me, Jacko, you'll join us for clubs later. Unfortunately, I don't know if tonight's the best of nights. A little busy with this kind of stuff going on with the channel. Got to kind of make up for some stuff that maybe Dave and I would do together, but I'm going to have to do solo tonight. And also as well, I do have a meeting with the bank, which is very fun, very exciting. And then after that, I have to calm my family down as the election happens and everything over here, Edward. So it's going to be a spicy evening over here in the USA.
Have you cast your vote yet?
I have cast my vote. Luckily, I get to do it by mail in my state, so it's pretty unglamorous. It's not as fun as maybe other states where you have to go in somewhere.
Well, listen, whoever you voted for, that postal vote will be voting for someone else, no doubt.
I sent in 5 just in case. Only kidding.
Yeah. Why not? You don't need ID. I sent in 10 myself. I don't even live there.
I'll send one in for you, Johnny. Martin Walton saying Gala game is relatively pointless. Ipswich is way more important. Fair point. Maybe the Europa League points can be cost at this stage. We don't need to necessarily win every game at this point in the Europa League.
But I would say that if you finish top or 1, 2 or second, you're guaranteed not to meet any of the big teams until the final, because it's seeded all the way through to the final. So whilst on the top 8, it doesn't seem like it's particularly important. If you look at the intricacies of the actual tournament, the higher you finish, the better. Obviously, some teams will not start so well and they'll be lower down. But ultimately, if you're 1, you can't meet number 2 until the final in the draw. So, it can be a good thing. I mean, look, we don't have many options on Thursday when you think about it, because, we got no Jed Spence even in the squad. We've got no Mickey van der Ven. We've got no Romero. So the team picks itself. Unfortunately, I think actually Pedro Porro might have to play, personally. I think it's going to have to be Ben Davis, Dragusin, probably Destiny and Porro. I'm not sure whether he'll risk Archie Gray in an inferno atmosphere like it's going to be out there. For an 18 to throw an 18-year-old into a game like that, have you ever seen? I mean, I'm sure most of you have seen what it's like to be playing in Turkey. It's scary enough as a football fan, let alone as a player. So,
emphasis on inferno because the pyrotechnics that they use in the stands.
Yeah,
be nice to have Emerson back. He knows how to handle a flare.
Yeah, but I mean, just look at some of the games. It's above and beyond some of the carrying on out there in Turkey. Okay, we've seen games being stopped. We've seen all sorts of stuff being thrown on the pitch. They've had behind closed doors games. Hopefully, it'll go off nice and easy. But I think the team's going to more or less pick itself. I wouldn't mind seeing Lancashire. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, if Richie's out, Solanke has literally run his nuts off for the last 2 games. I saw a stat earlier, something about he's had 175 more attacking presses than the next player below him in the list, in the Prem. So I mean, the numbers he's putting up in his pressing capacity are crazy, and you kind of look at Lancashire and you wonder if we're doing him justice by, keeping him around and not letting him go on a loan to get serious minutes, as well as, taking him out of under 21 squads so that he can be in the first team squad and then not giving him any minutes. So I would like to see him get some minutes. I thought he looked quite good against Ferencvaros. This is obviously going to be a pretty decent step up from that. But
there's a reason, Sam. So I was just going to say there's a reason why he's kept around. Because I believe in January he becomes a homegrown. Okay,
makes sense.
Yeah,
I just think I would play him, let him get some minutes. 60 minutes if we need to, bring Solanke on, or maybe you play Son up front for 30 minutes or whatever to sort of stretch his legs a little bit and see what happens.
Yeah. Captain Pants saying it's going to be a baptism of fire for a lot of these young kids, and we'll have to roll them out, especially in the case of Lancashire. That definitely would be for him, but I think he's a guy that can handle it. He's absolutely massive for someone his age as well, so you figure he could probably throw himself about in Istanbul. But everybody, if you can for us, we're going to get into some of the questions here that we have lined up, going live for about an hour or so, and also we have some time at the end that we'll be reserving time to answer your members' questions. So please, again, if you are a member, send those in the community section. Smash the like button for us, please. And feel free to support the channel by becoming a member or making the community bigger by gifting it out to somebody else. But we'll get into this. Everyone, good to see all of you joining us. First question is going to be about a certain James Maddison. You know, we have to find some sort of controversy to talk about. We did win 4-1. It was a brilliant win, 2 back-to-back great wins, but a certain James Maddison might be an interesting takeaway, might be an interesting sort of narrative that we can go down. Ange has leaned on Pop Matasari the past 2 games, which were, you could argue, some of the most important games that we've had to play in our season thus far. And James Maddison was, in fact, an unused sub against Man City. That made you think he was going to then play against Aston Villa, but he did sit on the bench, and he was actually one of the last subs to come on in the game, despite getting his goal. Has Ange lost a bit of faith in James Maddison, Johnny, or is it just maybe 2 games that he didn't think he was best to use for?
I've got to be honest with you. I've been calling for James Maddison to be dropped for quite a considerable amount of time. I don't understand when they talk about dropping. That's probably the wrong word. When Kevin De Bruyne sits on the bench, I don't see headlines, KDB dropped by Pep. No, because it's a squad, it's a rotation. You know, when I see Grealish on the bench or I see Foden on the bench, it's accepted. It's acceptable. So when you're not performing, and he hasn't been performing, he has to be dropped. And let's be honest, you know, I've said this before. I think the double pivot of Papasar and Bentancur adds legs, it adds physicality and creativity. With Kulu sat in there, I think it offers us more. Kulu's much stronger than Madison, and there's nothing wrong when the second half, when they're starting to tire or teams start to tire, that you bring on James Maddison and Basuma. I mean, we saw the other day, you know, people say, oh, I prefer Basuma in the middle of the park. But for me, it was quite clear the other day when Papasar was taken off after he got a yellow card, Basuma came on. Within a minute, he had a yellow card. Now, hang on, you're meant to be the experienced one. You're the 28-year-old, okay? You know, you've played all the games. Use your head, play wisely. And I just think James Maddison constantly going down from tackles, constantly berating the ref. His attitude when he was brought off the other day and not supporting the team, I don't like that. But I was delighted that he scored that goal. You know, is there any relation between being dropped and him feeling sorry for himself and getting onto that pitch and burying that shot? If it made him go on to the training pitch and practice and practice and practice and practice to find his form that's been missing, then so be it. The only benefactors of this will be Spurs. And let's be honest, competition for places is golden. We haven't had that. The drop off between our first team and our subs bench has been massive. And this season, it's shrunk. You know, and for us to have these options, and don't forget how many injuries we got, you know, with Odegaard, Richie and others, you know, been injured. It's a great position to be in. It's about fighting for your place. And I truly believe whether you're Heung-min Son or you're James Maddison, no player is given to start the game if you're not on form. Okay. And Sonny, made a great assist for Brendan Johnson's goal, but you know, he needed to come off. You know, he's been injured. The last thing we need is him breaking down. But I didn't like this sort of attitude of him not accepting it. You know, doesn't set a good example as the captain, personally.
I am the storm that's approaching. Great name. He's had this to say, Sam. I think Ange is ruthless in dropping people and taking them out specifically for the purposes of creating competition for places in the midfield. And I think it's kind of working.
I agree. He wasn't last season, but this season, you know, maybe he's got more options. But yeah, I definitely agree. What do you think, Sam?
I'm going to be controversial. I don't agree. I think there are instances of it, for sure. But I think that, I mean, maybe the question, he's saying, he specifically says midfield. So maybe he's talking specifically midfield. I haven't seen that anywhere else on the pitch, really, to be honest. this Madison stuff. I agree with you, Johnny, about the squad game. I think that Ange just looked at it and thought, I need a combative midfield, especially in the Aston Villa game. When you've got 6'5" Onana, I was about to call him Andre there, and he would have shouted at me. And then
we've all done it.
And then John McGinn, he gets around. Morgan Rogers, Jacob Ramsey. They're all very quick, aggressive players, and they'll press you. And then in the City game, by the time it was, you could think about maybe bringing Maddison on, he wouldn't have helped the game state. We were starting to really have to hold on. And not necessarily that City were creating hundreds of chances, but you knew that any lapse in judgment in the midfield, any slip ups, and they were going to get in behind. And realistically, they were going to take their chances, and almost did with that one mistake from Vicario, and thankfully Basuma was there on hand to clear it off the line. I think where I disagree with it in the most part with that comment from I Am the Storm Approaching, great name by the way, is that this isn't to slag Destiny off, but like, for example, with Destiny, he hasn't had a great season so far, and there are reasons for that. Obviously, coming back from quite a lengthy injury,
no competition.
Yeah, exactly. But I would have thought that I know Spence is now injured, but having Spence we've basically said Spence is going to be a backup fullback on either side. Why he hadn't given Spence a run, even in some of the sort of maybe, with all due respect, lesser games, to say, you've been impressing me. You impressed in pre-season, and you're pretty much the reason that we're still in the Carabao Cup and potentially progressing to a semi-final if we can beat Man United. Not to go too heavy and touch wood, but and again, I with Romero, and I know Romero is one of our captains. He's a World Cup winner. He's a mentality monster. I think kind of all of us would agree he's not been at the high levels that he sets for himself.
He was on Sunday.
Yeah, he has been good in the last couple games, but I'm taking more into like sort of the whole.
But in the case of Romero, like Ange does still have faith in Romero. Whereas, do you to the central question here, do you think Ange has lost faith in Madison, or do you think where he felt about Madison initially is very different from how he feels about him now?
I mean, Sam, I was there at the Palace game, and honestly, I was not alone with people shouting, "Get up, Madison! Stop going down." He was the weakest link. Without the double pivot of Sarr and Bentancur, and just playing with Madison and Kulu, we looked weak in the middle of the park. We were bossed about, and whether he likes it or not, he was one of the main issues there, and it wasn't the first game, and that's why I was so keen to see that against Manchester City. I was delighted when I saw the team news, and absolutely over the moon when I saw the Aston Villa team news, because I felt that, had he gone for Madison, we would definitely, I believe, if he started with Madison, we definitely would not have won that game. That's my opinion. Might be wrong.
Yeah. No, look, I wholeheartedly agree with that. But would I say that I think that Ange has lost faith with Madison? I wouldn't go that far.
Okay.
Again, as Johnny said, it's a squad game. Ange has been criticised in the past for not making tweaks going into games. And, a couple games this season, we've been found out a little bit playing that double pivot of Kulu and Madison. And, for me, Madison kind of verges on a bit of a luxury player, and maybe, the going down side of it is something that comes with these flair luxury players, I just think that it's funny that last season we were looking at Kulusevski out on the right wing and saying, God, this guy just, he doesn't fit into the position that he needs to play in the Ange system. People were saying that they'd sell him. We were
Yeah.
being told there'd be a surprise exit in the summer, and a lot of people were saying, it was between Basuma and Kulusevski. And then now you look at it, he's come into effectively Madison's domain, and now people are saying, well, it kind of looks like Madison doesn't fit the system. And I think a lot of people have said that from the beginning. It's not necessarily a new thing. But that 8 role that Madison's being asked to play doesn't really suit his game, because he, as I've said before, he needs to be in between the lines, making those little dribbles or passes like Kulusevski did for that beautiful chip. I'm sure we'll get onto that. But I think Madison is maybe being a bit wasted in that position, but also he's not offering enough to have Ange basically say, I'll try and build my team around you a little bit, or my system around you. So, harking back to the original point, do I think Ange has lost faith in Madison? Maybe yes and no. I would say mostly no. But obviously there are questions that are being asked of Madison now by Ange and by the team and other teams of, can you do the role that we need you to do? And in the last 2 games, Ange just said no. Read into that sort of how you want.
Shikari Shock saying Matters has been great this season. The only thing is our midfield is way too open with him and Kulu there. And then El Dante saying Decky is better than Madison, and those two compete for one place when the team has true balance. So Decky plays and Madison misses. That was kind of our next question, Johnny. Is Kulusevski basically more of an Ange 10 than Madison is? Is he better in that role than even James Madison is? And if that is the case, what does that say for his future at the club, or just the Spurs team in general, that Kulusevski is more or less taking that number 10 shirt in a figurative sense away from Madison?
To be honest with you, Kulusevski has infuriated me for a long time, because I never ever thought he was a winger. His statement when he came about 8-9 games in, where do you see yourself, at the club? He said, long term, I see myself playing in the middle. Okay, he stated that fact. And I was banging on about it when Ange comes in. He's got to take him away from the flank. And in fairness to Ange gave him opportunities, and he fluffed his lines more or less every single time. But something happened, in the summer. He's worked on his game. He's an intelligent. I would definitely say he's a very intelligent footballer. He's well educated, and he's worked on all of his weaknesses. And I was looking at some of my clips from the game on Sunday there, and his strength and his battling and the way he plays, and he looks up quickly to see who's there. He's on another level right now to James Madison. But the thing is, look, I believe that if you have competition, you can elevate the player who's supposedly less than to look at himself and to elevate his game. And, there's nothing wrong with that. It's fantastic for us as a club. We don't need one player. I mean, at one stage we had Christian Eriksen, and that was it. And then when he got rid of Christian Eriksen, we didn't have any other creative midfielders. Lo Celso was injured. So Harry Kane had to drop into that role of dropping deep and becoming the playmaker and the goal scorer from that midfield. And I just think that, we've got players coming through as well who could potentially fill that role in the long term. But, we're going to have injuries. Players are going to be missing. And as long as it's competitive, James Madison has to accept right now, Kulu holds the reins.
Yeah.
And, if he comes on in the 75th minute and he bosses the game for the last 15, 20 minutes, however long's left, it's great for Spurs. To bring on someone like James Madison for the 20 minutes, he should not be looking at it, in my opinion, as a slight. It's a team game. And I don't ever want to see what
someone wrote starters and finishers, right?
You're all part of the squad, right? And what I don't want to see is when the goals were going in the other night, he sat there, he never celebrated.
True.
I don't want to see that again. You should all be happy to just be part and parcel of it. I don't see such. I know we're not Manchester City, but I don't see that stuff at City when you see unbelievable talent sat there, and when they come on with 15 minutes to go or 10 minutes to go, they set the place alight. And we saw with James Maddison, he came on with a few minutes to go and he looked like a man on a mission, that he wanted to do it. And I thought the nicest thing about it was that when he scored the goal, the whole team ran to celebrate with him, basically, including Vicario. So there's massive support for Madison within the squad, and I don't think he's going anywhere, personally.
Do you think, Sam, that Kulusevski is better in the number 10 role in what Ange Postecoglou wants from his number 10 than James Maddison? Is he more encompassing of the role? Is he just better suit all of the attributes that Ange is looking for? And what does that say to James Maddison if that's the case, right? If it comes down to there only being one number 10 allowed in the midfield for, let's say, a Man City or an Aston Villa level of an opponent, James Maddison is more or less lost his starting spot, the spot that was practically given to him when he was first signed.
Well, I think you made a very important point that I wanted to touch on as well. I watched the Aston Villa Bournemouth game last weekend or the weekend before last, and the commentator said what you said about finishers and starters. He was saying about, I can't remember who it was, if I'm honest, might have been Andy Townsend, saying that basically Villa and Bournemouth, their subs have provided like the most goals in the league. And it wasn't a case of you're not in the starting squad, so you're not good enough. You have to look at how the game has like evolved over the last, even since I've been watching it, where you don't just go all out best players in the first team or in the starting squad and you bring on players like a John Duran or, in our case, you bring on a Madison when you're trying to unlock it late on. I think it's too early to tell, I think, whether Kulusevski is a better player than Madison. Because as Johnny said, we've all had our frustrations with Kulusevski over the last sort of season and a half. So yes, Kulusevski has been our best player since probably the start of pre-season. He was tearing up pre-season, and to be honest, I kind of, that Sheffield United game at the end of last season where he played as the number 9, the false 9, and also the Luton game where he played as the 9 with 10 men. And also obviously pre-season he was sort of playing that further forward role. I was a bit surprised when Ange said, like Kulusevski won't be playing as the number 9 basically going forward, because I was very impressed with him, and I think Dave brought it up on a couple of streams before, where Kulusevski, he does really well in that sort of hold up play, target man kind of position. In that Luton game specifically, we were under a lot of pressure, and the amount of times he gave us an out ball by just holding it up. He's not a small player. He's like 6'1", 6'2".
No, and he throws
his
body about.
around.
Yeah,
exactly. So I was surprised initially when Ange didn't start him for that first game of the season, and then since he's come into midfield, he's looked like a new man. I don't know if I'd agree with that comment before about him looking like £100 million signing.
Zero to hero.
Yeah, but I can see why the commenter thought that, or thinks that, because what he's offering to us right now, there aren't many players that can do it. One player who I think can do it, though, from our position is Morgan Rogers. I've really liked the look of him. In that Arsenal game where they lost 2-0 because the England backup striker in Ollie Watkins missed 2 open goals that made David Raya look like an unbelievable goalkeeper. Not that he is, and I like him, Raya, as well. But, I'm Team Vicario.
Morgan Rogers ran the show.
Exactly. And Kulusevski, he's got a different profile to Maddison, and it's all well and good being able to pick a pass, but Kulusevski can be a battering ram at times, and I think that's kind of what I was trying to get at with his hold up play up front, because we can see these tight little passes and flicks and tricks that he does, and has got a few assists off them. 3 assists in the last 2 games, but he also he has that ability to just knock a player out of the way. Do a step over, do a little body feint, and work the space for his creative ability. And I think that's what Johnny was getting at by saying, this is clearly a midfield and not a winger. Maybe if you merged Brennan Johnson and Kulusevski together, you'd have a serious player on your hands. Like Kulusevski's Brennan's pace on Kulusevski, and also Brennan's finishing. I'll give him the credit for that, because I like how he strikes the ball. You have a serious player, but with Madison, and I've given Madison credit, especially this season. I think he's been good.
He's been a lot better.
He's had good moments, but I've given him credit for his ability on the ball in terms of his quick movement. I just think that when you play against these teams that low block and are very physical, have very physical midfields, very physical fullbacks and centre backs, it's tough for a player like Madison. And that feeds into Johnny's argument about going down too hard, whereas Kulusevski will he might go down, but he'll shrug the challenge off and try and keep going forward. And he's a bit of a maverick in there. So I definitely wouldn't say that Kulusevski right now is massively better than Madison. But if he continues the trajectory that he's showing us from the start of the season, then I don't think it will be that much of a debate. I think it will be pretty cut and dry.
Good problems to have, right? We have 2 number 10s of a really high quality in the case of Kulusevski and Madison. In some cases, versus certain opponents, they'll be battling it out. They'll be competing for that one spot in that number 10 role in a game. And then there will be other games where you can try to fit them both in, and they can offer something very different to what you might get with Bentancur and Sarr, and then like a Kulusevski in the team. There are a lot of variations that we can make. And I think Pape Sarr's form is also, a good problem to have, actually, because Pape Sarr playing so well right now that he's almost become a bit undroppable. He's playing so well that he's kind of displaced Madison to a degree in the team for this moment in time. And it just then pushes, Madison to not be content, or not to be, kind of, let's say, easy and how he thinks he's going to get into the team, or that he's just going to be picked every single week. It's putting in good competition, and I think good problems to have. Pape Sarr's real resurgence in form, and also, just taking the opportunities that he's been given by Ange Postecoglou, and also just gives Ange a lot of different options. Some games he might feel like that Sarr Bentancur combination is too good to pass up against maybe really dangerous opponents, and then in other games he might think that the Madison Kulusevski is just such a good partnership to go with to break teams down. So for the time being, it's a great problem to have. Do you think that
temporary, class is permanent?
Yeah.
And basically, the truth will out eventually, James Maddison is a very good player. He's been out of form. It's not the James Maddison we saw in the first 10 games. And Kulu is not the same Kulu that we saw, the last 10 games of the season. So, they can both combine to improve. Look, it's a long season. And there will be incidences and there will be events that will determine that what we're seeing now will change again. And, Madison will have his chance. Kulu will have his chance. And Basuma, Pape Sarr and Bentancur will all have their chances and roles to play up and coming this season. This is just the early days. I think 10 games in, a quarter of the season gone.
Yeah,
long way.
So much left to be played, so much more to be found out about this team, and a little more spells of form that players will go through that we'll have to chat about. We're now going to swiftly move into a little bit of a conversation about the difference between the home form and the away form. Before I do that quickly, if anybody that's still with us, could you smash the like button, please? We have over 170 in the house. Smash the like button for us. Only 50 that I can tell in the chat at the moment, so it would be
embarrassing,
really
Jack.
Put it out there. Get the maths going. We need to at least get to closer to 100, I think, to push this out to more and
Do
more
they know
people.
where the button is? You know, it's the thumb button, guys. It's honestly, I trust me, it's not painful. Just hit the like button. It helps the algorithm for the channel. It helps it grow. You know, there
Thank
you
you,
go.
Johnny.
Look, there it
Good
is.
man.
There
Like
it is.
someone said earlier, put your DNA on it. And also, you know, like other people have put out, you know, it's kind of like wiping your feet before you go into someone's house. You know, it's just good
100%,
manners. Just good
100%.
manners. Everybody, you guys are match-going fans compared to Dave and I, who sit at, you know, screaming at walls and screaming at our monitor and our televisions for most games. You guys do go to the games. What's it kind of, you know, if you were to give a reason for why Spurs have been so much better at home versus away from home, is there something about the home atmosphere this year that's special? Is there something that the fans are doing, maybe the crowd is doing, that's willing Spurs over the line to get so many results? Why is it that it feels like the home, you know, stadium has been such a fortress for us, but away from home, it's been a very different story, and we're getting very different teams, you know, away from home versus at home? Why do you guys think that is, since you guys do go to the games?
I think, you know, I think it's like a comfort blanket, you know, the home games, and there's something comforting about it. And I think the fans have finally woken up to the fact that when this fan base start to sing and to make the noise, this is really lifting the players. It's having a massive effect. You know, it's been quite quiet at the beginning of the season. You know, it was a bit subdued. I see it being elevated. And McGinn mentioned it, funny enough, after the game, saying that the noise from inside the stadium when that first goal went in just was deafening, and it lifted the cloud. They weren't going to hear much louder noise at a stadium than what they heard there. And whilst it's uplifting for the home team, for us, it can be a little bit demoralising for the away team. It definitely energises us, especially in that second half when we're kicking towards the south stand. I've seen a couple of teams last season try to screw with our heads and ask to change sides before the game, so we were kicking towards the north stand in the second half. But you know, I go to a lot of the away games, and the support is fantastic. It really is. But however fantastic it is, there's something. They don't have the arm around them. They don't have that comfort blanket. They don't have that. I don't know. There's definitely when the chips are down, and you know, adversity rears its head, and the away fans are getting onto us, our heads go down. I mean, Palace, when that first goal went down, our heads dropped, and it really angered me because, hang on, come on, guys, this is early doors, and there was no fight and there was no belief. How can you have so much belief at home that you could beat anybody and go away from home and be so devoid of that same thing that you've got at home? So I think, you know, if Ange can get inside their heads, I think it's something that could be turned around, because that's going to be the difference between us being top four and not being top four this season. It's not going to be the home form. It's how do we cope away from home? Can we raise our game? Can we fight back in the same spirit as we have done in our home games when we go behind? But they're two different things, you know.
Could it be the cushiness of like the stadium? You know, it's got the lovely corridors, hallways, TVs, you know, pool, jacuzzi, parking spots, you know, everything that they must love. You know, they just.
It might be, but I just think, look, you know, the Brighton game, you know, I was nervous when we were 2-0 up, because you know, there were moments in the Man U game when they had 10 men and we were looking tired. We had made a subs that the game could change. It's about momentum. When that momentum changed and they scored that first goal, we knew, I think everyone knew, that they were scoring a second and a third. And we looked devoid. There was no one to rally the troops. You know, I think the team need to look at themselves. Yes, the captain is meant to lift the team, but sometimes the captain's having a stinker and someone else needs to come and fill the void and be the voice of reason, the voice that gets them round, in a huddle and says, look, come on, guys, we can do this. But no one did that. They had no belief. Same against Crystal Palace. And I just, maybe Ange could get in one of these sports psychologists in, and find the reason why we are so inept, away from home. I think it was 3 wins away from home in 2024? Not good enough.
No. Maybe we just could really use these games, against Galatasaray away from home to really work on it, I guess. But Sam, can you put down a reason as to why Spurs are such a force at home? It feels like even in that Aston Villa game, 1-0 down at halftime, Dave and I weren't exactly panicking. It felt like the team, at home just looked like a different outfit. They're willing to work hard for the whole 90 minutes. They play at a pretty, fast pace, maybe compared to away from home. Just everybody stays switched on for the most part. Just feels like, do you agree that there's kind of just two different sides in Spurs? There's the team that plays away from home and then the team that plays at home, just two different teams.
Well, I think the reason is we sold Moussa Dembele. Basically, since we sold Moussa Dembele, I can't really remember like a real long period of away wins. So I like to give Ange's credit. Yes, it's shit that we've won 3 or 4 away games this season or this year, but this is not a new thing with Spurs, unfortunately. I just feel like we're always talking about our away form. How many stadiums are there out there where, we've won 1 or 2 games in like 20 odd years? Like you look at Stamford Bridge, you look at Old Trafford, these hostile places where, as Johnny's saying, it works the other way around, this comfort blanket, and the hostility. I think it was Rain Man in the comments was saying about Gary Neville saying about that Arsenal game a few years ago, we brutalized Arsenal, the fans brutalized Arsenal, and that can happen against you anywhere. And the I don't go to the away games, but on TV, and I'm sure Johnny can back it up, most of these games you can only hear Spurs fans. Like you can hear, the Yido chants, you can hear "Come on, you Spurs," any chants out there, and then in the Crystal Palace game, they were silent for however long it was until they scored, and then it all changed. Then all you could hear was the Palace fans. They had something to cheer about, and that's obviously going to happen when you're a team that's not got a win yet. And you've got a chance to do it and take the scalp of a traditional top 6, top 5, top 4 team. So yes, it's definitely concerning, and I do think that Ange needs to change it and can change it. But as I say, I don't think it's something that is necessarily new. And then in those instances, it is on players like Sonny, like Ben Davies on Thursday, where we're going to have to go to a tough, hostile atmosphere in Turkey. The smoke, the flares, the chants. There's going to be trouble outside the stadiums before and after the games. As you saw with the United fans going to Istanbul a couple of weeks ago, which is just diabolical, by the way. I mean, why can't we just enjoy football as fans? Like, why can't you go to, another team, that has no impact on your every day-to-day life and not get beat up just for walking in the streets? I think that's something that has to change in football. But, as I say, Ben Davies is going to have to, look internally and try and encourage the team around him to, having been there for so long and been involved in, let's be honest, and Davies is my boy, been involved in a lot of these capitulations away from home, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know / think that Sonny will play or will at least start the game against Galatasaray. But he's also going to have to do it, especially as the captain. You're not going to have Romero, the boisterous character that he is, I kind of feel like he's going to start Fraser Forster. So you haven't got Vicario, although we see him managing from the sideline. So maybe you can count that in. It's just it's definitely a mentality thing, and Arsenal Arsenal had a really good away record, unfortunately, like until they lost was it to Bournemouth or whoever it was. They hadn't lost an away game or lost an away game for a considerable amount of time. And it sucks to have to give them credit, but they make themselves hard to play against away. And away fans, like, proportionally, are always better than the home fans, right? Because these are the fans that are diehard fans, like your Johnnies, that want to go there and just absolutely cheer and try and batter the home fans of the other team. And we see it a lot in European games when the Dutch teams come and the German teams come. Their fans are always really, really good, and you can always hear them.
True.
And they're always waving their scarves, and they do their unison celebrations and whatever. And it's impressive, and I do think that we've got a really good set of away fans. It's just that maybe it's a system thing, maybe it's a mentality thing, but as soon as we go down one goal and the opposition crowd gets up, we just seem to crack under the pressure, and it's disappointing and needs to be sorted out. And it can be sorted out, maybe with a couple additions or one addition in January, just a bit of a mentality monster. But it needs to be done.
It could be that, and I also think Spurs are in a weird position here where I think they're just going to have to wait for one of these younger, lesser proven guys to eventually mature and gain that experience, and then mold into a proper leader. It's going to be hard to try to embed one in. We could look towards the transfer market, try to bring someone in that can do that for us, but maybe we just have to be patient and just hope that one of these guys, a Vicario, a Sarr, someone maybe like a Bentancur, who knows, maybe guys that are starting to maybe be at the Spurs team for maybe the long haul. They look like guys that will be here for a long time, eventually start to pick up some of those characteristics and some of those traits. And they might not be perfect leaders now, but maybe one day down the road, they'll be perfect leaders for us later on. It's maybe not the case that every person has it in them when they're young and still in kind of the midst of their career. It might have to happen a little bit later, but I'd agree with you. And what's funny about this is I didn't even anticipate this, but one of the questions from one of the members here, Futures Bright, Futures Lily White, pretty much he and I came up with the exact same question. I think Sam, with a lot of the points that he made there, more or less, I'm not sure if they answered them perfectly or if it's what you wanted to hear, but definitely did address, I would say, the questions that you brought up there from Futures Bright, Futures Lily White. So I think we'll maybe skip over your question there, but I just thought, brilliant question. Great minds think alike. I came up with pretty much a similar one for the show today, and I think Sam did an excellent job in answering you, as well as Johnny. They are match-going fans as well, so I think they would have a better clue towards it than even I would. Before we go to the members' comments here, we do have a gifted membership here from Peter. Appreciate you, Peter. Thank you very much. He's gifted one out to Kenneth the Tottenham Hotspur. Kenneth, if you're watching in the background, I'd love to see you come on for a fan show sometime, because been with us for a very, very long time supporting Dave and I. So hopefully everything's okay with you. And I know you have many stories, I believe, of yourself at the Bricklayers, if I'm not mistaken. So big up to you, Kenneth. He's supposed to be a local legend from back in the day at that pub. But appreciate you, Peter, and up very, very early for the stream as well. So thank you for tuning in, and hopefully we can keep you awake for the time being. But let's go to some of the members' comments here. I put Sam and Johnny's Twitter as well in the chat there, so do follow them over. Do show them some support. After we answer these questions, we'll give them another plug, really, but figured I'd put it in sooner rather than later to show them some respect. Let's go to the very top from Rhino saying, hey, Jacko, even though I thought I don't like Ange, I have to give him credit for the second half. Hopefully we can get the win on Sunday to start my birthday off well going into Monday. But what do you think the score will be on Sunday? I say 5-0. Wow, all of a sudden Rhino's turned into, he's taking the happy clapping ability from me. I'm actually going to be a little bit more doom and gloom. I'm going to go for, a little nervous about the Ipswich Town game just because of our form before international breaks. It just always seems to be just never, that convincing. I think it's a pretty bad record. We are much better at home, though, than we are away from home. I'm going to say it's going to be an ugly 2-0, maybe 3-1, something like that or another. I'm not convinced that we're going to totally blow away Ipswich Town. They're also in hunt for a win of any kind, so you wonder if they're going to really try to turn it up, against
like
us.
Crystal Palace, yeah.
we're the givers, we're the most generous team in the Premier League. We help a team out when they need it, Johnny. What's your score prediction?
Have one on us. Listen, I'm a big fan of Rory Delap, so
Liam Delap, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he banged one in. But no, listen, I'm going to go 3-0.
3-0.
Clean. Sunday, I'm going to go make a positive. It's not going to be easy. I wouldn't be surprised if Delap scores a goal. Listen, they're not a bad team, Ipswich. I do like the coach. They haven't spent a fortune on players, and they're gonna try and get by, just like Luton did on the minimum. And it's too early to say just yet. Kieran McKenna's good coach, and he could yet keep them in the division. There's a lot of poor teams down there at the moment. Love to see West Ham go down, though. Wouldn't that be fabulous? All the pundits, with all these signings, and I believe, I'll be honest with you, with all those signings, I did think they would be far better positioned than they currently are. So who knows where we're going to be? But I'm going to go for a 3-0 win on the weekend.
Well, I think the problem is that they signed the Spanish David Moyes, and he's even worse than the regular David Moyes. You can't make a better David Moyes, and he's a worse version of it. If you had a score prediction for Sunday, Sam, and then also if you wanted to answer Edward's question, which would be, what placement would you accept if we win a trophy? So give me your score prediction, and then give me the lowest you would allow Spurs to finish in case they win a trophy, or if they do win a trophy.
I'm with you, Jack, about the game on Sunday. I think I tweeted the other day, you wouldn't be a Spurs fan if you weren't worried going into this game. I just think that, again, they're going to be desperate for a win. They're going to have seen the Palace game, and be thinking they can get something out of this. So I'm gonna go more conservative, because I was pretty. I went for a 3-0 for the Palace game, and that came to bite me. So I'm gonna go for a 2-1. I think it's gonna be quite a cagey game. But I see us winning it. I just think it's going to be a lot closer than people are going to expect. I think that they're going to be all right. I like their left back. Is it Leif Davis?
Yeah.
Something like that. He's a good player. And then if I think about what I would accept if we win a trophy, so I feel like I'm maybe in a different boat to some people. I would be pretty angry. I know, okay, you'd be elated with a trophy. Don't get me wrong. Like, as I say, 25 years, 0 trophies seen for me. And I just think that I would be pissed off if we didn't, like, is it 8th? Is that Conference League or 7th? Basically, whichever one is the lowest you can get to get Conference League. I would accept. I'd accept it through, like, clenched teeth and clenched fists. But I want to see good football, and I could understand. I was having a debate with Johnny on Twitter the other day. I can understand going all out for the Europa League or for one of these other cups when it looks a little bit like more possible, right? But I don't want to put all our eggs in one basket with the Europa League, which I did say at the beginning of the season, I think we can win. I don't want to go, pedal to the floor in the Europa League if that means that we basically get done in every week in the Premier League. And I think that Ange is doing it right at the moment. And I've been critical of Ange over his tenure. but credit where it's due. I think that he's approached these cup games very well with a maybe slightly too many changes, but a good balance of experience and youth going into these games. So yeah, I think 7th or 8th is what I would realistically expect. If the scammers can win a trophy and not finish like devastatingly low, then why can't we? We're one of the best teams in England and in Europe. I'll say it. We are a great team. So I would like a place that reflects that.
There you go. Nice, decent answer there from Sammy. I would take shortly 17th as long as we won the Europa League. If it were a League Cup like the Carabao Cup, I'd probably take around 10th. I just don't know if I could lose that much, if it were only for a League Cup, kind of like a Ten Hag sort of trophy. FA Cup, I'd probably take around 15th, 16th. FA Cup, I think, is more significant than the League Cup. But what do I know? I'm only a Yank and, haven't experienced, Spurs really winning a trophy. But I would take as pretty much almost close to relegation if it were the Europa League. I still consider that to be a massive trophy. You had a quick answer for that one, Johnny?
Yeah, I do. I certainly don't. I'm certainly not going to accept 17th. That means all the away games are just going to be torture. So no. So no, I'll settle for 7th and Europa League victory, and I'll settle for 5th, top 5 for a Carabao Cup or FA Cup, because I think 5th on the coefficient this season, unlike last season, we should get top 5 this season, because I think our teams are like winning all the games at the moment in Europe. So I think we got every chance of that. So there you go. 7th if we win the Europa, 5th if we win the Carabao or the FA Cup.
Good answers. Future's bright, future's lily white. As I alluded to earlier, I think Sam did a very good job answering this question, and unintentionally so. It looks like you and I had a very similar thought process going into this show. Very similar minds for these questions. Patty Higgins saying, are these meant to be Spurs related? Well, it can be whatever you want. You're contributing to the community. You're welcome to ask whatever questions you like.
Nothing Trump related today, though.
Yeah, as long as it was within reason. I was going to hint at that. Patty Higgins, when you forget a thought, where does it go? Go to you on that one, Johnny.
Sorry, what's the question?
When you forget a thought, where does it go?
Well, I don't know. I think with Basuma.
Have you watched Inside Out recently?
No, I think it was Basuma. It was Basuma straight in the book, because he seems to lose his thoughts on a regular basis. I seem to be always there when he's getting a yellow or being sent off or something happening to him. I'll just stick with Basuma and a yellow card, really. No, my thoughts. I get lost in thought before a game, but I'm totally engrossed. I never get lost in thought. Never get lost in a game. I'm totally consumed during the match day.
It is one of the best things to see is when someone, is eager to say something, and then right before they start speaking, immediately the thought that they were about to express, they completely forget. That's one of the best things to see. Another one from Patty. How do you handcuff a one-armed man, Sam?
Legs, maybe.
Attach the arm to the leg, or just do the legs?
I was thinking, I don't know, maybe arm to leg. That's a tough one. Maybe arm to belt loop. You know what I mean? keep
that's
it tight. It's a tough one.
Yeah, I think you do arm to the belt loop. I think that's what you would have to do. Sadly, I haven't witnessed a one-armed man being arrested yet. Paul Connor asking this one. Some fans call the League Cup a Mickey Mouse Cup, but this season we played Coventry away, which we nearly lost. Man City, followed by Manchester United. If we beat them, then we have 7 other Premier League clubs we could potentially face, including Arsenal, Liverpool, and Newcastle. What are your thoughts if Spurs win this cup? Mine would be we deserved it, as we could have effectively faced 4 top Premier League clubs by the final. I think we have been given the responsibility to knock out all the favorites, basically, for Arsenal and for Liverpool. They seem to be given a pretty easy route where we're expected to beat all the favorites going into it. But I mean, guys, would people give us the credit that we deserve I think is what Paul's asking. If we were to win this cup, considering we'd be knocking out some pretty, decent Premier League sides, should the League Cup be given more credit, be given a little bit more, praise if Spurs were to do it this year?
I think for the memes only, we'll win. If we won, it will just be they finally won a trophy. Let's have a look in the cabinet. They got one. Don't get too excited. Don't get ahead of yourself. Okay. We're looking for a dynasty, like two trophies in 2 years. That's a dynasty in Spurs land. Listen, to overcome it shouldn't be about everyone else. We just want it for ourselves. Forget the other fan bases. Forget the mocking and it's only this. I mean, I'm still harping back to the days when we won the Audi Cup. I mean, that's all I got to cling to. So, let's enjoy it for what it is and shut out the noise that will no doubt be coming from across the other side of London. Who cares?
I bought a 6-pack of Tiger beer when we won the Tiger beer cup in the preseason. That's how much I was celebrating. And we'll take anything we can get, Paul. And then last and certainly not least, big up to Donovan Osterreicher. What do we need to do in January to secure this solid run of form heading into the business end of the season? Also, what cups do we have the most realistic chances of winning, in your opinion? First one to Sam, second one to you there, Johnny. What sort of positions do you think we need to sign in order to solidify this season?
I think the most obvious position, and I think you'll both agree, is left back. Because, I mean, we've seen that Ben Davies can, adequately cover left centre-back when called upon. And, he gets a lot of criticism over the years, and I'll stand up for it. He's a steady Eddie. He gives you a 6 out of 10 pretty much every single game. His standards very rarely drop. And he works very hard for the team. And I'm old-fashioned, I like players that will basically bleed for the club, even if they've not necessarily got the footballing ability or the skill to be a top player. But I don't think that Ben Davies has ever really done too bad by us. I think he's just an easy one to just take out your frustrations on. But having to go into the Europa League every single week, and the same question is being asked, well, is he going to start Udogie at left back, or is he going to play Van der Ven and play Ben Davies? But one of your left-sided starters basically has to play every single Europa League game. And it's going to be the same for the cups when we start having midweek cup games in between, big Premier League clashes. And you're going to have to think, well, which one do we sort of semi-sacrifice here? So for me, left back is definitely the most important one, because I think that we've got just enough to cover centre-back wise. Obviously, I know now we've lost both our starting centre-backs, so we're light in that department. But I think it's mainly the left back. Maybe another winger that actually comes in and can start. Probably a left winger. So again, left side of the pitch is probably where I think we need to address the most.
Well, I definitely agree with that on the left back. And what cups do we have a more realistic chance of winning this season, Johnny? If you had to throw a fiver on any of the cups, which one will it be?
Just to quickly add to that, left centre back, stroke left back, and keeper. Right, I'll go straight for Hincapié. No messing around. By Leverkusen, Ecuador, top draw. You want to be the best, buy the best, and he's top draw. And I bring back Ashley Phillips from Stoke. Personally, I think 6 months was enough for him to go out there. He's an absolute beast. I think, listen, if you look at the Europa League, Man United, Eintracht Frankfurt, Galatasaray, Roma most probably are the main people. I don't know Lazio, but I think they're the main ones. And I think on our day we can beat any of them. I think it could be harder potentially to win an FA Cup or the Carabao Cup. Although we're in the quarterfinals, we're into the semis. Can't get too carried away. I lost count how many semi-finals I got excited about under Poch, only to be disappointed until I see us lift the trophy. All I've got to think about is a goal off of Woodgate's shoulder going in. That's about it. I really like us to go on a run and for Ange to actually fulfill his prophecy of he always wins in his second season. I'll take whatever we can get, but I prefer to get the Europa League.
If I were to actually predict which one we would win,
Carabao.
I think it would be more likely a domestic cup of some kind. It's just the Europa League, I think, is, you'd think, the easiest of them because technically it's lesser opponents. But it's just English clubs, apart from, what was it, Chelsea, I think, recently, were the only team I can recall that have won a Europa League, in recent years. Just for some reason, English clubs just don't seem to be able to get over the line in the Europa League and to be able to win it. So I think it's going to happen. And even like the Conference League, the fact that West Ham are the only team that has actually won the Conference League, Aston Villa found a way to even slip up to an Olympiacos side, right? So it's just, you get a lot of very unexpected results. Sometimes
Leverkusen as well, undefeated all season and
lose in the final, get smacked in the final by Atalanta. And I remember watching that game and they were completely outclassed by Atalanta. So it's a ton of unexpected possibilities in the Europa League, whereas maybe the League Cup and the FA Cup, you might run into a similar situation that we do with Man City, a team that doesn't want to field their best team, doesn't really care about it too much, and you can end up, staying, within your own country and not having to travel too far and be able to compete against some of the teams that you're already more familiar with, that you already actually know a thing or two about, compared to maybe the Europa League. So I would put it on a League Cup. I prefer it to be the Europa League, though. I'd rather us win the Europa League than any of the other trophy opportunities. One quickly from lesser known was, are we better with or without Kane this year?
Look, guys, the ship has sailed. The ship has sailed. It's this year. Last year he left a year ago. All right, this is his second season without. Okay, we've moved on. The greats have come and gone. Okay, and they're consigned to history. The memories will always be special, but we have to look ahead. Can't keep looking behind us. That's my opinion. If Kane comes back someday, great. But I don't want a 34-year-old Harry Kane coming back, and we all have to dance to Harry Kane's tune. If he can contribute to the team as a squad member, fantastic. It was special having him, but he's moved on, and so have we. And how fitting it would be if we went on to lift a trophy and Bayern Munich ended up with zilch.
I wish we splashed the cash more with the money that we got for Kane, lesser known. I think we've kind of divided up.
Brendan Johnson. I mean, he's
Brendan Johnson and then Solanke the next season, and James Maddison. But it felt like we could have really done a lot more each summer window with the extra. We already usually spend around 100 million anyways, most summer windows. And the fact that we kind of just more or less did the exact same thing again, spending around 100 million or so. I don't know. I find that a bit frustrating. I kind of wish that we did go for a big splash the cash type of window, but maybe they're waiting to do that later. Then again, it's Daniel Levy, so I'm not going to get my hopes up. That would be kind of my feeling. Is I think we could confidently say if we were better with Kane, if we really splashed the cash, but I don't think we did. I think we've kind of spread it out in my opinion, a slightly annoying way. I think we're going to wrap up the show here, everybody. On your way out, please smash that like button, and also on your way out, do follow over to Johnny and Sam's Twitter as well as Johnny's Instagram. Johnny, like I said to people last time, I actually really like your Instagram because you get to watch videos from different angles as well as catch little bits and details that you might not get on Sky Sports or NBC, which we have over here in the USA. I've been really enjoying your Twitter, and every time I'm liking it, I'm getting more and more of those videos. So the algorithm's feeding me well.
Do you know, I was quite surprised that they didn't seem to show. I watched Match of the Day on Sunday, and I was looking forward to watching that tackle by Romero. not even in the highlights. Not even in the highlights. So I posted it yesterday. I think it's got a lot of traction already. So yeah, I posted little videos. I think I've done one of Bentancur today, and yesterday one on Romero. I thought Bentancur was unbelievable in that first half, by the way, on the weekend. Papasar overall. Obviously, Solanke gets the headlines, but Papasar was amazing. Yeah, so you can see me there. And on Thursday, I'll be doing watch along with We Are Tottenham TV for the Galatasaray game. So if you get bored, it'll be my first one. I don't know how I'm going to cope with it because I do swear when I'm watching football. And I believe that I'm not allowed to swear doing the watch along. So I've got no idea. This could be my last watch along at We Are Tottenham TV. So if you're bored and you're around, come and give us a watch. But thanks for having me on. Always good to stream with you and Sam, and obviously the big man himself, Dave, who's just lost in furniture somewhere.
Johnny needs proof.
Hopefully he'll be back.
He needs proof that that's been assembled, because he's getting worried about you.
I need to see a picture, man. It's just talk at the moment.
Sam, thanks for contributing. Thanks for making this show possible tonight, sir. I have your Twitter in the chat here, but any final words from you, my friend?
Yeah, just we'll do it. We'll do a little Arsenal. Trust the process, lads. It's starting to reap some sort of rewards, and a lot of people are warming to Ange. Cue another loss, and everyone going, "Get him out! I told you it wasn't right." But we just need to go. We've got a young squad. It's all going to come together. I genuinely believe that, and I know as a Spurs fan, it's our job to say this year is our year to win a trophy. But I genuinely believe that this year we actually are going to win it. Whether it's a bit of like the Ange prophecy hoodoo, or just the fact that we actually play such good football in parts. I just think that we can do it, and hopefully if you do follow over to my Twitter, my views are balanced, so that you can see where I'm willing to criticize. I'm more than willing to compliment and give credit where it's due. So yeah, I've got some fish fingers on the table for me. I think some mashed potatoes.
Oh, fishy fingers! I haven't had any fishy fingers and mashed potato for a long time. Takes me back.
You're missing out, Johnny. You're missing out.
Any beans on there? Any beans or no? No.
I go for some Green Giant sweet corn.
Oh no.
Throw that into the mash, mix it all up nice. Maybe a bit of salad cream on the side.
No. You killed it now. You killed it. You killed me. You had me at fish fingers and mashed potato, but Green Giant sweet corn. No. But thanks anyway.
Everybody, if you can, smash the like button on the way out.
Hit the likes, boys.
And also, please follow them over to their socials. Show them some love. Thank you to Edward earlier for the donation, as well as also Peter for gifting out a membership. Take advantage of it. Kenneth, Tottenham Hotspur. But we'll see you next time, everybody. Tomorrow should be the fan show, members match preview as well. So take a look out for that one. And I'm also going to be uploading a bit of content that I did earlier over on that Big Up Network. Do watch that as well, and do join us over on that platform, because you'd be helping out the channel a ton, helping out what Dave and I are doing over here. And also as well, I think you get to come on, have a chat with us, break down games, do neutral watch alongs, hate alongs, lots of fun over there. So please join us over for that. I'll be uploading that later. But have a good rest of your evenings, everybody. We'll see you all tomorrow. Come on, you Spurs. The big Ange we trust. We keep moving. See you, everybody.
Go on, you Spurs.
Everywhere we go.